It's an unusual name check.
As a driver, if I'm there and I go over the gravel, I just want to highlight it. Even if it's not going to make a difference, I want it known to the mechanics that check the car, because you don't want to be just carrying that on. You want to make sure that they are aware of the fact that there might be gravel rash. If you can patch it up, great. It's just a highlight thing.
Let's go to the corner in question with James Hinchcliffe.
Yeah, I feel like I'm on gravel watch down here in turn 12, guys. And I got to say, you might absolutely be right, Bruno. Who's happy with the front end balance of that race car and who's still struggling.
Hinch, appreciate the report at turn 12. A corner that's generating quite a lot of debate about, well, it turned into, what do we call the Hungaroring? Because the cliche that's always trotted out has been rejected by the three people to my right in the commentary box. Liam Lawson heading down to the first turn. This was elongated in 2003 to try and promote overtaking. It's the few alterations they've made. Just cover off where Brundle was referring to a couple of corners that were deleted. The spring used to be about there, and there used to be a chicane that went round it in the early days.
A spring?
That's what he told us. I trust this man.
It's in the notes, guys. It's in the notes.
The race director's notes.
The race director's no. Well, it
What,
probably
like a hot spring?
probably was not a hot spring. I can't comment on the temperature of the spring. That's not in the notes, but I can confirm that there was a spring. The track used to go around it, and it's for that reason and the low average speed of the circuit that the first ever Grand Prix here ran to time.
Wow.
And not distance.
They should have called it Spa.
Sam, have you got anything for us?
I was just going to answer Jolin's question. A spring is where water comes out of the ground. It doesn't have to be hot or cold.
What's a geyser?
That's where it scoots up into the air, like quite high, a bit like Yellowstone, or it's a bloke in South London.
Oh my word.
A powerful spring.
A powerful spring.
It's like a jet of water into the air, and looking at the hydrodynamics is very much like looking at the aerodynamics of a Formula One car, which is a lot of the teams will be doing on track now as the car goes through this very low average speed circuit as they try to understand it, because a lot of the lessons from the Hungaroring this weekend will be quite relevant to Zandvoort, another very low average speed circuit, which is coming up next on the calendar, because now I know what the next race is.
It's a McLaren 1-2 this time. It's Oscar Piastri ahead of Lando Norris. We've had 15 minutes of practice. I'll be honest, it feels a little bit longer than that so far. Piastri, Norris, Charles Leclerc, Kimi Antonelli again ahead of George Russell. Strange, hasn't been that way around so far with the qualifying head-to-head this year. Only one time Antonelli's been the lead driver on the grid for Mercedes. That pairing continuing for next year. It'll be interesting to see the length of deal that George Russell gets when that is announced, probably sometime in the summer break, or when we go racing again at Zandvoort. And then we have rounding out the top 10, Isaac Hadjar, Lewis Hamilton. And then we get to this man, Yuki Tsunoda, who seems quite encouraged with the change of personnel at the top. Laura Mekis, who he had a great working relationship with at Racing Bulls. Now he's team principal at Red Bull, and he's in the top 10, 8th position ahead of Stroll. And Hulkenberg, who's getting up to speed, having missed FP1 earlier on. Same applies to Alonso in 16th.
Verstappen closing out a second flying lap here, which will put him on the same amount of laps on the same tyre as the two McLarens and Charles Leclerc out front, and the Mercedes for that matter. It's not massively quick either. Jumps from 15th only to 8th, and only 300s ahead of Tsunoda. So Verstappen, who was slightly later out than some of the others, is not much quicker than he was in FP1. In fact, he's no quicker at all.
He's been told on the radio the track temperature has plummeted a bit since we started the session. That's information for him, information for you, wherever you're watching in the world. Lewis Hamilton, Sector 1, Sector 2, personal best.
Bottom is so messy.
That's the man that's matching his teammate at the moment, but not happy with the balance. So I can only imagine that Verstappen's feedback will be something similar. Tsunoda was saying no grip on either axle in this morning's practice, and it seems like he's getting grip on some axles, but is varying corner to corner of where it's at. So then you try and give feedback. You know, I don't really know if it's understeer or oversteer. It's varying corner to corner, which is very difficult to fix. Hence, a messy balance rather than anything particular, as Hamilton comes through and puts in a messy final sector that was looking like a better lap until then.
Talking of a better lap, great performance on the medium tyres for Isaac Hadjar, who's 4th earlier on. He's now 5th, splitting the two Mercedes as it stands. Fastest in the first sector, fastest in the second sector of the lap. Lando Norris led for a long time here last year, makes his way through the gravel on the racing line that's been deposited at turn 12. This is the long turn 13, and then sending it to home. Getting the widest possible turn in, kicking up the dust. The man who's on his way to the fastest time.
So he's using the curb on the way in and the way out of 13.
Max, main balance limitation, please.
It's further and rear, mate. I just like driving on ice.
Copy that, thank you.
Confirmation then of Verstappen finding a similar balance to Tsunoda, and Red Bull just not in a good window right now, as shown by them being a second off the pace. Yuki finds another 1/10 of a second to go back ahead of Max, who's pitted, but obviously just struggling to find a window where they're getting the tyres to work at this point to be that far away. Yeah, Norris really exuding confidence. Turning in from the outside curb at this corner coming up, turn 13, as we see Leclerc on a slow lap right now. He's then running out wide on the exit curb of this corner as well, which is difficult. You've got traction and lateral load to take that curb and unsettle the car, and then turned in with a puff of grass from the outside of 14. So he is absolutely maximising the track width, and quite early on in the weekend then taking the extremes, but showing he's pretty dialed in. He's just trying to find millimetre improvements.
Talking of improvement, Charles Leclerc was much happier with the driving feel of his Ferrari back at the Belgian Grand Prix. Said it didn't take them any closer on the timing page, but he's been reporting strange handling, especially in Q3 this year. Much happier with the car when it came to Belgium, and he was 0.3 of a second away from the ultimate pace. He's 0.03 off Lando Norris through Sector 1.
Like a little twitchy on the exit of the high speed there at turn 4. First sector, Ferrari was quick earlier on, particularly in the hands of Charles. Then the middle and the final sector was where the McLaren looked much quicker. These changes of direction, having it glued. Let's see what Charles does as he flashes through this right hand at the end of the sequence in the middle sector. Lovely curb cam. And he's lost that bit of time again, but it's closer. It's an improvement for Charles.
He lost 1/10 to the McLarens at this part of the racetrack in FP1. Let's see whether he can stem the flow of time lost. It's a great shot of an amazing view. You see so many fans in for a Friday. And he goes past the brand new pit building and grandstand, and more time falling away there. He's very nearly half a second off the back of Norris's pace.
Yeah, trying to get the car working. You see even Piastri there rolling into oversteer towards the end of the lap, turning it in, then just actually waiting with understeer in the final corner. And he's also losing time at the end of the lap, as did Norris, actually on his best lap, put in 2 purple sectors and couldn't keep the pace on the final sector, even if he was nailing the extremities of the track.
Let's go downstairs to the pit lane with Ruth Busker.
Yeah, Yep, I'm down here at Alpine, and Pierre Gasly, after a stunning race weekend in Spa, has had a bit of a tricky start to his Hungarian Grand Prix. So this is what I would call a medium level problem. It's not too big. As you can see, the car is not up on high stands, but what they have been doing is changing some of the settings on the suspension in the front and the rear of the car. Everybody's working all in it, trying to get it out as minimum time as possible. With only 1 hour, even as much as an 8-minute delay can mean that you lose an entire run, which actually can completely compromise your FP2 program, which is more significant here than in other places, because it looks like qualifying tomorrow could be very similar conditions to what we have today. And then finally, Heath, what I want to say is this car is angled. It is not because the lovely boys at Alpine have put it in on a wonky. It's because we're in one of the tightest pit lanes of the year. And actually, quite a lot of the cars, especially the ones that have the second garage, aka the one that's close to the pit exit, have to angle it in order to get it out. And you might even see a team member or two on the pit wall to practice a pushback procedure if they can't quite make the turn. One of the many joys and quirks of racing around Budapest.
Oh, there are many, Ruth. Thank you very much. We're on board with Lewis Hamilton. With a Floves on the rear wing. It's updated rear end of the Ferrari. Brand new pit apron and buildings. A little bit more room down there than there used to be. The different issues that you face depending on where in the pit lane you are. They run in, talking of running, over the chicane goes Lewis Hamilton. We've seen that before, saw that in FP1, it's happened again, he bails out of the lap.
The rear looks settled enough, just obviously laid on the brakes, turned in, the front didn't seem to fancy it. Obviously Hamilton there trying to push the limit of the braking that little bit more at the end of this medium tyre run.
So he is going to have a choice between boxing and reloading. He boxes now. He's trying to work out what he's going to do, because that is the racing line to dip into pit entry, and he comes back to the pits. That rear wing adorned with Floves, and there he is over the chicane.
Yeah, just pushing the limit of that braking. Was just a small moment where he thought about turning it in and then thought, nah, let's just go through there. Probably the rear was on the limit as he's gone longer on these on the medium tyres. So into the pits he comes. It's very quiet out on the circuit, waiting for some soft tyres to go on.
Alex Brundle.
So it seems like Pierre Gasly tried something at the beginning of this session. Feedback after the first laps were, it's very bad, I'm sliding in the high speed. So effectively, he's not happy with whatever they've moved to at the beginning of that session, is now making a reasonable sized change to go either onto something else or back to what they had previously. There was also a second chapter listening in to Max Verstappen's feedback that confirms they're still mostly struggling with the front of that Red Bull after his flying lap. The rise in my note there was for the big slide in the middle of the corner for the Aston Martin.
A bit loosey-goosey for Fernando Alonso as he was building up. Enjoyed the pitch change though, Alex, enjoyed it.
I've got quite the vocal range when I really try.
We've got Russell and Sainz out there as well after the adjustments being made to Gaz's car that Brundle was telling you about a second ago. He is currently 2.1 seconds off the benchmark that's set by Lando Norris. Norris, Piastri, Leclerc, Antonelli and Hadjar. So 2 F2 graduates in the top 5 at the moment from last year to this year, and queuing up, parking up in fact, and white flag being waved because of that slow moving vehicle of Carlos Sainz, who once upon a time had a wide turn in out that corner like we saw for Lando Norris a couple of minutes ago. Too wide, spun it round into the barriers in a qualifying session a few years ago. He's got the soft tyre on the car and he's attacking turn number 1.
First car onto the softs then. Had a big lock up there on his last run in FP1 earlier on, but he's clean through there this time. It opens the DRS towards the turn 2 braking zone. Feeling that little bit more grip. A little bit wide at the apex there. I don't know if he had a small lock up on the left front as he turned into turn 2. Now you start feeling the payback of the soft tyres, so they should be a bit quicker. They are through the first sector already, but this is where they'll come into their own through this sequence of corners. Feeling the rear grip coming up. Hopefully you've changed the front to make the most of it. It looked like he was sliding coming out of turn 5 already, just getting on the curb on the exit there, fully loaded up. Sweeps through the left, finds it through the right. Don't want to run wide on the exit there and find the Astro, but that's clean from Sainz. final corner of the middle sector is the quickest one, and he's right there with Lando Norris through 2 sectors. But of course, the first lap on the soft, so it's going to be our early benchmark with 3 corners to go, and it's now 2 corners to go into the slowest of them, turn 13. Real pleasure to drive this circuit when you've got the mechanical grip underneath you, and that's what a soft tyre will give. Just feel like you can turn in that little bit quicker, get on the gas that little bit quicker as well, and Sainz jumps up to 3rd place.
So, a good time for Carlos Sainz with a 1:16.874. First runner on the soft tyre. Let's have a look at how it appeared trackside. He's heading into turn 5. And he makes his way through, gets more dramatic by turn 7.
Yeah, so that's where he did have the oversteer. We couldn't see it from the first shot, but he actually got it right out towards the gravel. He was so committed to getting on the throttle early coming out of 5. Obviously lost traction there, but such a short run from 5 over that crest before you find the brakies over 6 that it really wouldn't cost him too much there.
Let's go downstairs to the pit lane. Ruth has made her way to Mercedes.
Thank you very much. Right, so another quirk about Budapest, I'm going to tell you, is that the actual garages are laid out differently to normal. So you will spot there is no island, commonly known as an Isola. There is no Toto Wolff sat in the middle. The race engineer is at the edge. Now that often happens when we go to tight pit lanes. It is quite a short pit lane. So we basically build our garages like Lego pieces. You see Toto is right at the very back there in what would normally be the guest areas. And actually, even though this garage looks exactly the same as the garage that we have in other places around the world, there's often 6 versions of a garage. They're in different versions of sea freight in exactly the same way that we have the pit walls that get moved around the world for efficiency, to be eco-friendly, as we have a wild Valtteri Bottas there. And then Heath, right at the very top, one of my favourite things about the Mercedes pit wall is they have their own weather vane on top of it. It's adorable, isn't it? And also useful. And that is a bit about information about what a paddock is like in Budapest and around the world.
Ruth, did you not get your own weather vane?
I did not get my own weather vane, and I was very, very jealous. Could you not tell?
Thank you, Ruth. Looking at the quirks of the Hungaroring.
So that's Mercedes with their own weather vane that's still pitted on the first lap of the formation lap of Silverstone. Still not quite getting the tyre choices right at all times, Mercedes.
Lance Stroll goes P1, and we saw him across the line. The man who had a new teammate in FP1, Fernando Alonso, is back in town, 44 years young. And it's 32 minutes to go. It's a 1:16.2. We're going to get the quali sims from the big hitters in a few minutes' time. Told you.
Here we go. Here we go. Straight away. So Norris and Piastri both on outlaps. Antonelli on an outlap as well. Verstappen stays in the garage as Red Bull try and get on top of things. You can see Charles Leclerc in the back of shot there, trying to come out of the field, but plenty of them going slow as Lando Norris sweeps around, and he looked a little wide at the apex at the first corner on his soft tyres, but he keeps his foot in down towards turn 2.
Dipping down the hill he goes. Lando Norris.
He's wide again, isn't he, at turn 2? Yeah, he's backed out of it now.
Yeah, that is disappointment for Norris. He's been talking about he said that the champion's going to be the one who makes the fewest mistakes between now and the end of the year. Let's see how Oscar Piastri goes. He's made his way past the slew of cars coming out slowly, heading to the same corner where his teammate had the wide moment.
So Piastri also doesn't get it right into the apex there at 2. He'll carry a decent minimum speed, but have to wait a little bit to get on the throttle. He's going to come around his teammate probably on this lap later on then, with Lando backing out of it. Whoa, that was close, really close with Bortoleto coming in towards turn 5. Bortoleto just slightly on the racing line as Piastri wanted to open that one up. So Oscar's not actually as quick as Kimi Antonelli through the first part of the circuit, and look at this. This is going to be horrible for him. He's not catching that traffic at a good point.
They try to peel out of the way. They are mandated to peel out of the way, but that's got to be distracting for the World Championship leader.
Well, he still comes through and goes purple, but this is awful heap of traffic in the middle sector in Monaco without the walls. This is not good for Piastri. He's actually doing well to keep his foot in as much as he has done round them all, but it's distracting to say the least. So Antonelli's now finding that traffic on the left-hand side, and there he goes round Lando Norris as Piastri comes through and delivers a decent final sector. What's Antonelli going to do in the Mercedes? He'll pick up a toe. Absolute carnage for these guys sweeping around, and Antonelli lost a load in the final sector.
He's 6/10 off Oscar Piastri, and he finds himself behind Lance Stroll. There's Tom Stallard, who you'll hear on the radio to Oscar Piastri, race engineer, been with him throughout his time in Formula One. Colapinto to the top 10 with that effort, behind the medium runners of Norris and Leclerc.
So Norris will go again, and he's in fact started that lap right now. Verstappen here you can see on an outlap as well, so we'll see if Red Bull have found something switching to a soft tyre. It shows what a difficult job it's going to be for everyone to stay out of each other's way, especially in Q1 tomorrow. Hajar jumps up to third with another good lap today. He's having a very good day as we watch Max come through the final corner and prepare it. But let's have a look at Lando, because he's done the fastest first sector of anyone. Oh, a little bit wide through 6 and 7. That compromised him on the exit.
Hustling his way through the chicane, and then a very similar sequence of corners that gets faster and faster. Next up, turn 11. It's really quick through there. He's 0.3 of a second up on Piastri.
Yeah, I just think Piastri's lap's going to be compromised as well, but Norris is looking far better on this second lap. Now he's got the rear trying to rotate on him, so he's just having to make small corrections at the wheel. Drives right to the outside in the rear, still going and going. He's not making an apex, and he's washing quite wide on the exit, so it's a bit scrappy in the end, but it's still the top spot. There's more to come from both McLarens here, but that's still a tidy 2 sectors for Norris.
We're going to go and join Max Verstappen trackside. We do so, and he's leaning on the AstroTurf. You can see the puff of smoke coming up from the underside of the floor, striking the curb. He makes his way through turn 11. He's 0.7 of a second down on Lando Norris. Always good around here. He's maiden Formula 1 pole position scored around this circuit. And Norris has the fastest first sectors in 1 and 2. Remember, both Red Bull drivers have reported issues with balance front and rear so far. He comes over the line in 8th position. Let's send it to James Hinchcliffe, who's trackside.
So like we were saying, guys, turn 14, a really good indicator of how the front end of these Formula One cars are working on these soft tires, end of a lap. How is the tire holding up? How's that balance holding up? We saw Lando Norris's lap. He's one of the only drivers that had a little wiggle, little oversteer moment mid-corner, hurt a little bit of his exit speed here at the end of his lap. Still good enough for P1. But some other observations, few cars looking really strong around here. I'm thinking about Isaac Hadjar. He's got one of the tightest lines around this last corner because the front of the car is working so well. He can roll that speed in, and it's really rotating mid-corner. Most drivers are having to enter kind of wide, about a car width and a half off the inside line, and then really doing a pivot 3/4 of the way through the corner, because the focus here is all about that exit, feeding on that throttle. We saw how early Lando Norris was able to do that on his pole lap last year. But I'll tell you who's not looking great, guys. It's the Red Bulls, especially Max Verstappen. He's having to go so tight so early because the car doesn't have the front grip to get that rotation from a car width and a half out for that ideal line off. Same with the Williams cars. Cars that are really struggling with the front here, they don't have the confidence to enter wide, pivot mid-corner, and get that straight run. They're having to just chase it all the way down to the apex early, really compromising minimum speed and really compromising their exit speed. So again, this corner, kind of one of the classic corners on this racetrack to give you a sense of car balance and who's quick right now.
Thank you, Hinch. Appreciate that. Watching on, what a great vantage point. Gives you an idea of how much they are changing direction through that final corner. We talk about the speeds increasing all the while. Talking of speeds increasing all the while, Lance Stroll is improving what was already a very, very tidy time in the Aston Martin. All 4 wheels off the road, but don't worry about that. It's only practice. It's P3.
Decent practice so far from Stroll. Leclerc went up to what was 3rd, is now 4th in the Ferrari with another good first sector, but the McLarens are just so far clear of the rest of them through sectors 2 and 3 that they are in a league of their own right now.
We've seen a message on the screen about a turn 3 incident involving Max Verstappen. That's unusual because normally in practice it would involve another car. Alex Brundle, bring us up to date.
Yeah, so I've been investigating this. It looks like as he's rolling through turn 3 on his most recent outlap, Max Verstappen takes both hands off the steering wheel, firstly, reaches down into the cockpit, and then throws what is a piece of white material out of the cockpit to the right-hand side. So I'm presuming we're going to catch that at some point on a replay. But yeah, that's been noted by the stewards then, that Max Verstappen ejected something from the car down in turn 3.
I've seen George Russell throw a drinks bottle from the car in Formula 2 in the past, but will be interesting to see what Max Verstappen had left in his cockpit.
Well, hopefully we'll see a replay of that, but that could qualify as leaving the pits in an unsafe condition if there's something rattling around in the cockpit. The other thing is releasing it onto the racetrack, as Alex pointed out. That could also invoke the ire of race control. We'll have to see what it is. I've seen the clip over Alex's shoulder. It's really hard to say what it is.
We'll bring it to you as soon as we can, with 24 minutes to go. Meanwhile, at the chicane, we've got Oscar Piastri divvying a couple of wheels on the exit.
Was that on the last lap that he did? Because it was only 4 thousandths off his best. Again, the exit of this one flows straight into the entry of the next, so you don't really lose in terms of your exit speed, but it does put you off the entry to that corner right there when you've been coming through it. Here we go then.
Let's see what ejects the cockpit with Max Verstappen. It's a towel. It's a towel, isn't it?
Yes, I think it's just basically a bit of rag or a towel from the garage, but it's still in the cockpit with him. He throws out of the right-hand side of the cockpit.
And there you go. That's going to be investigated after the session, according to race control. You watch F1 TV long enough, you'll see all sorts, including what looked like a rag to be chucked from the cockpit. Very unusual one. Good to see GP back on the microphone. Race engineer to Max Verstappen, and conversation about what that was and why it had to be discarded. But either way, Max Verstappen having to chuck that clear. And thanks to the team for finding that for us and rolling it in so we could show you why we were getting the messages on the race control screen. Unusual one.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it's a bit of paper, because when the drivers come in, you often get a printout of data, and then I don't know why you wouldn't. Normally, I would have just given that back to the engineer, obviously, before you head back out. But it's either that or it's a rag. My eyes were not good enough to see exactly what it was. Your eyes are, and it was a towel then.
It's we think it's a rag because it's got a Red Bull logo on it.
Well, I was just wondering, looking at that Red Bull logo, I could be wrong here, but I don't know if the rags will have Red Bull logos on, but that could be a driver. You know the balaclavas they wear under the helmet? They do have a Red Bull logo on like that, and I just wonder if that's Max Verstappen's spare balaclava that he may have left in overalls or something, or got left in the cockpit. But that's what it looked like to me, and I said it to Alex off air, and now I've seen that, I'm beginning to think that is what it was.
Not a bad shout, Sam.
Well, what are you doing with the spare balaclava in the car?
Maybe he just took it off when he was sitting in the car, dropped it, and has now found it again, and the mechanic didn't clear it out. I don't know. Ask Max Verstappen.
It seems a more far-fetched.
The stewards will. The stewards will ask.
Helmet off. Off comes the balaclava. Puts the helmet back on without the balaclava, and then thinks, "Oh no, there it is."
We'll have another look. It's the unusual moment of practice so far, which is headed by the two McLarens who are in the league of their own. Oliver Behrman was running really nicely earlier on, found himself in the top 6. He's currently 18th.
To be fair, you are the one that suggested he took a piece of paper voluntarily out onto the track with him, didn't hand it back to his engineer and get to turn 3 and go, "Nah, I don't need this, actually. I think I'll drop it on the racetrack."
Right, but I'm thinking of what I might have had loose in the cockpit, and what I always had loose in the cockpit was a bit of paper. So it's much more natural that I might have a bit of paper in the cockpit than some of my race underwear that's now loose, and I'm not wearing, but I'm not about to put it on as a spare because I'm wearing another one.
Let's see that again. Let's go to Vox. Let's roll in the replay. Ollie Behrman, lovely first sector, personal best for him. Let's have another look when we can at what Max Verstappen threw. Let's play. What did Max Verstappen throw?
So it's on his lap. Oh.
Okay, let's try and pause it. Let's try and pause it when he's got it in his hands. So he's come out of turn 3. Is it a balaclava? Look for the material. Or is it a towel? Oh, it's looking towel-like. Frame by frame to see what he's thrown. I think it's a rag, isn't it?
I think it's a rag, isn't it?
I'm going towel, actually. You don't brand rags, but I think that is a towel looking at the texture.
Look at that. Immaculate technique to throw it clear. Can't practice that.
Well, you know what? He's actually done well to hurl
past
it
the
clear.
halo.
Yeah, exactly. Past the halo. Past all your air intakes out there and launch it, hopefully, off the track as well.
We've done some frame by frames on some odd things on this channel, but that is top. That is top. Strong lap for Ollie Behrman, who is trying to continue his strong 1-lap pace, and he goes into 11th position. That's what you saw on the left-hand side of your screen. Lando Norris, penultimate corner of the racetrack, all over the curb, all good so far. That wide turning, and that's what happened to Sainz a couple of years ago, his old teammate, and it very nearly happened to him.
I wince when drivers generally get out there, and Lando's already been flirting with that one, and that is more than a flirt. I can tell you that barrier out there is not a nice one to hit.
Oh, nice.
So many times George Russell turns commentator. It's happened again.
He'll be good at that one day.
Just something I noticed when Norris was having that moment, actually. You notice the track temperature has dropped ever so slightly. McLaren's actually changed the cooling ducting on its bodywork and reduced the amount of louvres on the engine cover because they just don't need so much. The more louvres you have, the more cooling outlets, the more aerodynamic drag the car has, so blanking them off, reduce the drag, increase your top speed. So it looks like McLaren have just reacted to changing weather conditions.
It's amazing how far they are clear of the field, really. When you still consider that Piastri's best time is really not what he can do. He came past about 10 cars in the second half of the lap around a very tight circuit, and then he managed to match it going off the road on the exit of the chicane. Norris's one still looks slightly scruffy through the final sector, but he's been generally on good form today. He then almost completely binned it in the final corner, so there's more to come from them, and they're still way clear of the field. Alonso's about to put the Aston Martin even higher up, is he? Personal best in the first and second, doesn't find it in the third sector, but they must be flattering themselves. Aston Martin, fourth and fifth. So yeah, McLaren are a long one. Only Leclerc seems to have a slight view on them, and Red Bull are having a really tricky day. That would be no more than surely than a slap on the wrists for Red Bull, for the Verstappen thing.
No, I think gave us something to talk about, though. Always grateful for that in practice. Unusual one. Verstappen down there in 14th is not what he'll want to see. There is the brand new Red Bull hierarchy, headed by CEO and team principal Lauren Mekies.
Straights, 19th. So they have got the car, I'm sure, dialed right down here. And I saw that at the time because Max was 3.5 tenths away from the top spot in the first sector, which is really just 2 corners down in towards turn 1 and turn 2. And that correlates with 5.5 tenths round the lap on the straights. There's actually not much straight line after the first sector, so there is a good chunk of the deficit that Red Bull are carrying is probably going to be in PU mode at the moment, but there's still deficits in all the low speed, medium speed and high speed corners to work on as well. They're way better than 14th with Max. Actually Yuki 9th is more representative for him, but yeah, there's more to come easily for them.
PU mode, power unit mode. Throughout the 3 practice sessions, teams are completely free to change the various control modes, the software on their combustion engines and their hybrid systems. But going into the competitive sessions, so qualifying and the race, they have to lock it in 3 practice 3. So what you typically will see is teams running quite a conservative PU mode, so the hybrid system not deploying or harvesting as aggressively as possible, and the engine map. If you've got a more modern road car, you might be able to switch between eco and sport modes in your car. It's just like that. And they will probably be driving around in free practice in eco mode, but when it gets into the serious stuff, they'll switch it to sport mode. And different teams and even different engine manufacturers will have more aggressive versions of that sport mode. And traditionally, you'll see the Honda-powered cars suddenly take a big jump up on a Saturday into qualifying because they've got a more aggressive qualifying mode, whereas other teams, maybe the Mercedes-powered teams, don't have such a big step from Fridays into Saturdays. So that's the PU mode explanation.
Thank you, Sam. That's the great thing about Formula One in this modern era. We've got some of you watching who have discovered us in recent times. We've got many of you who've been with us for many a year. No matter if it's your first season or you've seen them all, great to have your company. And we've got an all-McLaren title fight. Something very Prost and Senna about that. Norris and Piastri doing battle to succeed Max Verstappen.
What's your favourite Hungarian Grand Prix?
It's a good question. I quite enjoyed Jenson Button winning his first race in 2006. That's right up there.
Oh, that was a corker of a race, wasn't it?
All sorts going on. In the wet, in the dry, and he'd waited a long time before he stood on the top step.
I loved Lewis Hamilton being schooled on defensive driving by Fernando Alonso. Was that 2021?
It was indeed. Esteban Ocon owed his maiden win to stopping Lewis Hamilton coming through the field. Palmer, what about you?
I think 97. Damon Hill in an Arrows.
Absolutely incredible.
Nearly
Arrows
winning the race in a complete minnow team on merit.
Can you imagine now? Let's apply it to modern Formula One. Max Verstappen goes, I am actually leaving Red Bull, and I'm off to Alpine.
Yeah.
And box. We have lost telemetry. Box. Car is currently unsafe. So just stop in box, engine off, and stay in the car before further instruction.
Well,
Did you check? Can you hear me?
Well, clearly an electrical failure at Williams, but that is a bit of a silly message for Williams to broadcast on the radio. The car is currently unsafe, but you're driving it on track. Depending on how you define that, that is a guaranteed penalty.
No, they're talking about getting out of the
Yeah,
car.
don't touch the car.
yeah,
It's a leap clear, isn't it? It's a electrically unsafe leap clear message.
Yeah, whilst you're driving it, it's okay, but you got to leap clear. Has Carlos actually got the memo? Let's see if he comes into
That's the thing. If they've lost everything, they're going to have to. I think they're going to have to tell him via gesture as well.
He's not coming in, so
Yeah,
they're going to have to hang
totally
the old
lost it.
pit board out here and see if he's even looking with 14 minutes to go. Can we see out? Well, they're not hanging out a pit board either.
They will now know he can't hit. So unless there's been another message that we haven't broadcast, they're going to have to get the pit board out, and then they're going to have to tell him to do a jump clear. Drivers all know that procedure and that message, but of course, if you've lost radio communications, how do you tell them?
Not a single team there had their pit boards out. So are drivers now still looking at the pit boards, Jolyon, habitually?
I used to. You obviously got team radio now for so much information that can be relayed. At a Grand Prix, I used to have the simple things that wouldn't change too much. So a lap count, gap to the car behind that you want to know, but you don't need to know it over the airwaves. You can just see it lap by lap. In practice, it doesn't matter so much, but it's more just a routine of knowing where your pit board is. So when you're in the Grand Prix, you get a little bit of an eye line.
So the team's telling them they've lost telemetry in all comms, and then they told them as he came past the pit lane there to stay out, that they got the telemetry back. So it's a bit of a confusing, run for Williams.
Here's the message.
I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me? Box. We've lost telemetry and all comms. Stay out. We got telemetry back. Stay out, please.
And that's what happened there with Alex Brundle. Thanks very much, Alex. Scanning across all the radio channels for us to give you the most complete picture of what's going on track.
So should we bring it back to 1997?
Yeah, please do. I like this retro run. They're all in race runs. That order on the left-hand side isn't going to change.
So it's the equivalent, as you were about to say, of Max Verstappen leaves Red Bull for next year, joins Alpine. They're then not really anywhere for most of the year. Turn up to Budapest. Verstappen puts it third on the grid, is then up behind, let's call him Lewis Hamilton, or a champion from this year, overtakes him on the circuit in his Alpine, roars away into a massive lead, but then the plucky underdog loses out with reliability gremlins in the last laps. And Jacques Villeneuve, the champion, comes through.
Lost hydraulic pressure due to a tiny, inexpensive washer. And that cost Arrows what would have been their only Grand Prix win, and it cost Hill one of the all-time underdog F1 victories. It would have rated right up there, if not top.
It is difficult because even Alpine, you feel, I mean, they did win this one a few years ago.
It's kind of comparable, isn't it? But it's not. You had a much bigger spread. To give you an idea, that Arrows very nearly didn't qualify for the Grand Prix at the start of the season. Much bigger spread in terms of the timing page than we have in modern F1.
And that was their only podium, I believe. Second place for Hill on the day, still finished behind Villeneuve, limped home as Leclerc drifts through that gravel again, pleasing everyone behind him. It's difficult to have a minnow story that good because all the minnows now are really competitive. Back in 1997, the minnows were hanging on by a thread, somehow get their hands on a world champion, and he produces one of the iconic drives that didn't quite get a victory.
I mean, Alpine is a works team, so you shouldn't really consider it a minnow. Though that Arrows did have a works engine from Yamaha, of all companies, which wasn't really seen as the top-level racing engine. Yamaha not known for its cars, but its motorcycles and keyboards are pretty good.
Hard to argue with that, Sam. Very hard to argue with that. Yeah, great history in motorcycle racing as well. And I don't know about the keyboards. I'll take your word for it. But it would have been great.
They're world leading, aren't they?
I'll take your word for it as well.
Pianos.
So You can, if you want to see the highlights of that race, you can see it on F1 TV, and it's well worth your time.
Also, the 2014 race that we mentioned earlier, the
Yeah,
overtaking,
brilliant.
Daniel Ricciardo storming through at the end for a.
That was such a good win.
It was.
That was. I couldn't remember exactly what happened, and so I pressed play on the feature-length highlights that were posted to YouTube. This is a proper victory for Daniel Ricciardo. You forget that with the narrow track cars, there was a reason his reputation was sky high. That was sensational.
Oh my God, man! Look at this.
He lost radio and telemetry.
That's the sort of thing that gets clipped up for the animation edit that we get in the summer break at the end of the year. I think we'll be hearing that again from Liam Lawson.
Yeah, it's very rare that your race engineer will come on and defend another driver, but Sainz, without any level of communication to him, we did hear him say that he couldn't hear what was going on, and then they finally managed to pick it up, and he has remained out there on the circuit.
Alex Brundle was slunk off before we quizzed him on Hungarian Grand Prix. And he, I imagine, is going to do something for us in the studio later on. We're under 10 minutes to go. It's Norris, Piastri, Leclerc, Stroll, Alonso, Hamilton, Russell, Hadjar again in the top 10, Tsunoda and Antonelli. There's the current pace. They're on the long runs, and that is the current pace at the moment. Good stint for Lando Norris.
It's become a race that has provided so many good Grand Prix in recent years. It's gone from being one that's really difficult to overtake. It's still not easy, but it is better now with DRS. And we often get strategy offsets as well. That was the Ricciardo win, was he was flying through on fresher tyres, wasn't he, at the end? There was not necessarily one of the great races, but a good bit of drama last year with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, for Piastri taking his first win.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's just unbelievable. I can't get it in balance.
And it's easy to forget that man had his own tussles last year as well. Had that collision with Lewis Hamilton. There was plenty of drama further back, and right now he's having more drama today than he's had on a Friday for a while. We know that there's a bit more to come with power unit modes. They can unleash more, but there's not enough to get them into the mix at the moment, Red Bull. And Verstappen hasn't been this at sea all season on a Friday, and he's not had the cleanest of runs on Fridays generally.
I'll tell you one team that looks a bit less at sea than we've been used to in recent races. It's Aston Martin, 4th and 5th at the moment after these Q-Sim runs. They've been mucking about with the floors. The floors they had at Spa just clearly didn't work for them. They've introduced a older spec or a different spec floor back onto the car, and they were swapping them in and out to see which one was best for this circuit. Looks to me that they're splitting the Ferraris. Looks to me that they found one that actually works quite nicely.
Yeah, we'll see whether that translates into tomorrow. Also make a point about this circuit, producing many first-time winners. The tyres are cold, Max, just try to keep pushing was the message he's being told by GP on the radio. Damon Hill, Fernando Alonso, Jenson Button, Heikki Kovalainen, Esteban Ocon and Oscar Piastri, all getting their maiden wins around this circuit.
That's the fun of it as well, isn't it? You forget about the Ocon win. You talk about the Alonso Hamilton fight in 21, but Esteban Ocon somehow does get the win in the Alpine. It was extraordinary. I'll believe Aston Martin's pace when I see it tomorrow. Too many times I've been caught by them cheating themselves in practice, running low fuel, getting themselves into a good window. I remember Austria particularly, Stroll was flying throughout practice and was out in Q1. So Alonso has shown better pace through qualifying, has had now numerous Q3 appearances. They look like they've had a good day, but they often look like they're having good practices. So,
well, Aston Martin's on low fuel around Hungary was another story of the 2021 Grand Prix after they got disqualified for not having enough fuel left in the car at the end of the race. I think they got reinstated. I can't actually remember how that came out in the end, but no, they never did. So yeah, they had, at the end of each Grand Prix, you must have a minimum amount of fuel in the car for the FIA to be able to take a sample to prove that the fuel in the car is legal and within the regulations, and each team has to provide fuel samples consistently through the year to make sure it is the fuel that they're supposed to be running on. Aston Martin could provide a sample, but not a big enough one, so it's a bit like a Tour de France cyclist not being able to provide a sample at the end of a mountain stage. If they can't, well, they're automatically out. And that's basically what happened to Aston Martin in 2021. Still a good race, though.
Yeah, very good drive. Just not enough fuel in the car. Sebastian Vettel really didn't give Esteban not got any breathing room at all. Great Grand Prix in 21.
Yeah, I'm missing the float now. Amazing.
And you are in traffic, Isaac. Head down, please. We need to focus on this for the race.
So another driver, he doesn't sound delighted with the balance, being told to stay with it.
I'm just wondering if their track temperature is a bit of a factor in this. It's dropped right down to 35.8 degrees centigrade, which in general Formula One terms is actually really quite low. And a lot of these teams have come to this circuit and set the cars up expecting very high temperatures. I mean, the Racing Bulls actually got some cooling on the back of it for once.
Yeah, for Budapest as well, we normally see searing temperatures at the end of summer in Budapest, just sweltering. But there's cloud cover, as you can see, and actually air temperature being just under 27 degrees is very pleasant. And the front tyres just dropping away. Probably the grip level's quite high, so you start to turn in with a little bit more speed and just actually put more energy through the fronts. Normally there's a bit of front and a bit of rear going as well. The rear grips obviously stayed okay, and the way that the drivers have been able to attack the entries to these corners here, you see Fernando winding on the lot. It's all giving the front tyres a little bit more stress.
And on the onboard camera there of Alonso's car, you could actually see the driver cooling duct on the Aston Martin.
Is this guy doing this on purpose or what? Like, what's wrong with him?
Copy that. Head down.
So that is George Russell ahead. They're 7th and 8th on the times, and they are running together on track. And Adjar isn't happy with Russell's pace, but he's not being allowed through.
Was that Racing Bulls asking for your get on with it button?
Pretty much. Only applied from the cockpit this time. Frederick Vesti is the driver in your picture there. That's a reserve driver, does a lot of simulator work and very reliable, very detailed with his feedback. Former Formula 2 runner-up. As we now focus on the second Mercedes. This one isn't in the path of a slightly irritated Isaac Hadjar. Kimi Antonelli finds himself with the 10th fastest time from the quali sims earlier on, behind his teammate. But we're nose cam on board. See what it looks like at the end of his practice session. That's where the spring was found that Thunder was referring to. And you can see the towel is still on the racetrack. We just went past it.
Oh, good spot. I was looking at the optical contacts on the underside of the front wing there. You can see them moving up and down as the car goes around the lap. You are going to see wing flex on every wing in Formula One. It's just how much the wings move is what the FIA are looking at. And those little two yellow circles with dots in the middle, that's how they monitor how much the wings are moving and how much is that they are allowed to move. So if they move too much, those dots are going to be used to reference how much too much is. But I suspect this is absolutely fine what we're seeing.
It's all very stipulated by the regs now, isn't it? Nose cam with Antonelli, who's having a pretty good day, I would say. He was actually quicker than Russell earlier on. He's going to end this one 1/10 down on his teammate, but this is a circuit that George Russell has had a pole position on in a Mercedes, so that's pretty solid from Kimi. Obviously Mercedes still trying to work out where their performance has gone, trying different setups this weekend, reverting to a previous iteration of the car, and doesn't look like it's brought them forward at this stage, but they will crunch the numbers at the end of the day, and it is only a practice day after all.
I think of all the teams to be saying goodbye to the regulation set at the end of this year, they will be the happiest to say goodbye to the current technical regulations. Valtteri Bottas has a cutaway, and it's complete. There we go. Valtteri, the third driver at Mercedes, providing plenty of great content. And there it is! Told you it was still there.
It's unusual that you hear people talking about Max Verstappen throwing in the towel, but in this case he seems to have thrown it out.
Wonderful, Sam. No notes. No notes. We're going to have another look. Here it is. Towelgate continues. Max Verstappen's going to have a chat about this with the stewards afterwards. Getting rid of it. Yeah, good technique. Got it off the racing line and went about his practice session, which has seen him only in 14th position.
Yeah, and that's actually quite unusual. When was the last time you saw a session in Formula One where Max Verstappen was behind his teammate on the timing screen?
Yeah, not when there's been quali sims. Oh, my word. Slewing off the racetrack like we saw for Bortoleto earlier.
That towel's a lot more obvious on the track. Have we not seen that shot looking back at turn 3?
I don't think so. Don't think we've seen much of it.
It's very much on the track, isn't it? The towel. I mean, it hasn't made any impact on anyone, I don't think, and I hope not. but it's very obvious as we see for
What's going on with this?
He's all over the place. So he's doing a long run here. He's done 13 laps on this set of mediums on this run, plus 6 already on low fuel. And we're hearing from everyone that the tyres are going away, but Verstappen just driving it now with loads of understeer, booting the throttle, kicking the back out. Very, very frustrated, I think, with the balance today. Both Red Bull guys are. They need to troubleshoot something because this is their worst Friday in quite some time.
Incredibly tough to see a driver of his prowess fighting it through every single corner. When a car isn't dialed in around this circuit, it really shows up, and that was a tough final lap for him at the end of a rough Friday for Red Bull Racing. They're going to finish 9th and 14th. This is what it looked like on board. Just kept his foot in.
He's got no grip, so the rear initially is going to wash, and then he backs off slightly, and then the front goes.
Whoa! The top two of the World Championship, millimetres apart. It's only practice. Settle down. Lando Norris with the lock-up. Oscar Piastri sailing by.
Can you imagine?
Tighter than you'd want in practice.
So, I wonder what the communication was there for Lando coming out of the pits. Oscar will have a much clearer view because he's the one accelerating at a higher speed, so he'll see Lando there, but he won't be expecting Lando to be keeping his foot in and smoking it in on the brakes. Bit of practice for the race. It's all fun until they hit each other, but that was all fun.
It's like your Combox curse from Belgium. Unbelievable. Best one you've ever done. That's your reward. That's your reward if you made it to the end of practice with us today. Palmer being reminded about the fact that the only time they've ever hit each other was in Belgium last time out. McLaren's got away with it. They got away with it. No extra work for the mechanics to do. Norris ahead of Piastri. Leclerc ahead of Stroll. Alonso ahead of Hamilton. Then Russell, Hadjar, Tsunoda and Antonelli. McLaren's have just roared clear, haven't they? Private battle.